Hello YouTubes, this is Grimweird coming back at you with more Enigmatica 2 Expert Mod Pack playthrough action. We are on E2E version 1.75 and this is Minecraft 1.12.2. So at the end of last episode we had gotten tons of power. We had gotten our tier 5 void ore miner going. So we had lots of stuff coming into our ME system. So I wanted to go ahead and start pulling stuff out into storage buses and auxiliary storage places just to keep myself from having to, make tons and tons and tons of ME storage for the bloat. So I'm going to show you that, but first I thought we'd watch the sunset over my new blood magic altar. So this generated this pyramid was a pre-generated structure, which was sort of interesting. It was just sort of hanging out over this river precariously and sort of looked out of place here. So I thought it'd be interesting to incorporate that into my structure. I since then went into sort of a black and white style, but I decided to go ahead and keep that plan, and so we'll come back and take a look at this in a second. But let's take a look at what I did for storage. So if we come over here, I've set up a room in here with a whole bunch of compacting drawers. So here we have tons of ingots and whatnot. The nice thing about exporting your metals into compacting drawers with storage buses on them is you then have access without programming recipes for all of the stuff like the nuggets and the blocks. You don't have to make a recipe from going to block to ingot to ingot to nugget to nugget to ingot to block. You don't have to make all those recipes because they will now all show up here. So if we take a look up here at copper, we have 71,000 ingots, and that counts as 7903 blocks. And if we take a look at our system for copper, we can see that either those blocks or the ingots or the 640,000 nuggets are all available to us without having recipes in the system. So that's sort of handy. So there are storage buses back here. If we take a look at the back side, so I've basically got between this wall and this wall, I've got all the main ingots covered. A lot of these weren't really necessary to put in there because I don't have a ton of them. Things like refined obsidian and Osgil glass and titanium and whatnot. But I figured just for completeness sake, might as well put them in there in case I need any blocks versus ingots. So we can take a look at what that looks like on the back side. Basically, there is an ME storage bus hooked up to the controller. And you can set these for input-output mode, which makes them basically any new metal that comes into the system will go to the higher priority. If I remember to set the priority on this bad boy. Let's go ahead and pause that. Let's go 200. I think I already set the priority on this bad boy to 200 and this bad boy to 200. So now anything new that comes into the system, ME system, will go in priority to these storage drawers as opposed to into, you can see I've got some silver coming in right now. So it will go in priority into the drawers as opposed to onto disk drives in the ME system. And the fact that it is bidirectional means it'll go into and out of that so we can see it all on access. But one of the things I had to do to get this all rolling was I set these up and I set everything to insert only. And then let me change that back before I forget about it. And then I had this set up here where I put things in for an export bus to export things I had tons of, and exported them into here and then imported them back in. So then with the priority, We exported things, we imported them back in, and now that they had priority to go to the drawers, they would go into the drawers. But because all of this was set to insert only, I couldn't access this inventory while it was all sorting itself out and all importing into drawers, which made crafting and whatnot difficult. Oh, and this wall has a lot of, the gems, the environmental tech crystals, again, anything that compacts, netherrack, cobble, dust, gravel, sand, quartz, ender pearls, yada, yada, yada. So that's all going on. But while these drawers were filling up and while they were all set to insert only, that left me unable to craft and with a lot of time on my hands yesterday. So what I did was I did some construction. So let's take a look at this bad boy. So this is a well-disguised blood magic temple. If we take a look down here in the pre-generated pyramid part of it, if we look at it from the bottom, you'll be able to see some of the stuff. So these are the places where the runes will go. Currently they are just construction blocks made out of construction paste, but I will change these runes from the bottom, and I've covered over them on top just to make it look more interesting up top. These are the bases of the beacons, 9 iron blocks. Again, I've covered them up top just so that it fits in with the theme better. And up there will be where the temple is, or where the actual altar is, up in the center here. And down in this area we will probably set up a, what is it called, a Well of Suffering ritual, I believe. And then we'll probably dig out a little space underneath here for a powered spawner with some witches or something to sacrifice them for blood. But then on top, you can see I've built on top of the structure. I'm pretty sure that it works just fine with stuff built on top of it. So I've done things like I've hidden the base of the beacon. If we take a look under here, you can see the base of the beacon is there, and the beacons are active, but covered with, I went ahead and made a Thaumcraft crucible over them because they look neat. And these are some red nether brick chiseled from nether brick. So the beacons are active, but then also just to make them fit the theme more, I can mouse over it. You can see that there's one little rod of red stained glass pane sitting on top of the crucible, which changes the color from sort of a diamond color, light blue, to the red, which is more fitting with a blood magic altar. So I thought that was a cool effect. Also underneath these are the, if you're familiar with blood magic, there are purple stones under here. What are those called? I can never remember. Let's see, so I can't not type either. So there are red bloodstone bricks and purple ones. Where are the purple ones? Is that them? No. Anyway, there's red ones and purple ones that go on top of the pillars as part of the structure. But again, they just sort of don't fit and don't look quite right. So I covered them up by putting stairs over them. So these are upside down stairs and right side up stairs, which can probably... They are hiding these, which are currently made out of construction blocks. But when I have the recipes open to make them, I will replace those with the appropriate bloodstone blocks. But I wanted to cover them up just because they did look a little odd. So yeah, here's where the altar will go. I need to work on Thaumcraft, I think, a bit before I can make that. But this is all set to go, and places are ready. I've got some white Pam's Harvest Craft candles there. When I get Thaumcraft going, I'll probably replace those with maybe some red candles, or mix it up with some red Thaumcraft candles. I'm using redstone as decoration, just to sort of jazz up the sandstone a bit, and also because it looks a little bit like blood spatter. Yeah, so that's all good to go. None of it's operational yet. I haven't made anything, but it's all prepared and ready to build out. So then the other thing I did was we built an Astral Sorcery area. Now on this one, I should say that I got a template for the building gadgets copy paste thing. So a redditor named PM me tatas or something like that. I'll put a link to the thread in the subreddit 9x9 for building gadgets. He created this thing which is a mashup of a lot of different Astral Sorcery structures in one. So if we start over on the side by my base, this will be the crafting altar right here. So when we get that going, it'll have the decorative crystal here. It also has an advanced collector crystal thing here that you can shoot down at it. And if we go across the top, this is the attunement altar area with the black field that you put the relays on in certain constellation patterns to attune to those constellations. There are little side balconies here. He left glass here so that you could put like another crystal down here for doing transmuting, like turning iron ore into a star metal ore or whatnot. So I may or may not do that, but that's why there's a little piece of glass there. And I'll probably put some light wells here for collection of starlight and then pipe them down into the middle here. You can see in the middle I've already populated it with liquid starlight, so this is going to be where the starlight infuser goes. And if we take a look down through the middle more, I believe this spot is for, it's also got a piece of glass because it needs to, one block needs to see the sky. I believe this is for some sort of transportation portal. It's something I haven't made yet. So I'm not really familiar with it, but there is some sort of transportation celestial gateway. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. So this may be where the celestial gateway will go underneath this glass. And then out here, we've got another place for a collector crystal and a place for a couple of rituals. So these rituals can share that collector crystal. Again, I might change some of this around, add more collector crystal areas. I might add some relay areas off to the side here. Some things like that just to jazz this up a bit. Oh, and then this balcony across from the other one that had the window in it, this balcony, PME Tatas had an observatory. So this is probably where we'll put the telescope and or observatory. So I copied this from the paste bin into the tool and then built it with the copy paste tool. I did have to go through and change a few things. There was sort of a mixture of basalt tile and basalt brick, so I went through and made it all tile. There were some inconsistencies and asymmetrical differences between the two balconies that I went through and fixed. I had to put some marble underneath where the starlight goes here. I'm not sure if the ground just cut it out or if it wasn't in the copy paste, but I had to put some marble down underneath here. I had to strip out all the torches. There were a ton of torches in this place. I've replaced those with lighting either from starlight or just white glow panels or the occasional black glow panel, whichever I thought would look better wherever I wanted to put it. So we've got the place all lit up. So yeah, things are going good. And then we put fences around both areas just to keep monsters from wandering in to either area. I got a wild hare and just sort of took my new flight speed out for a test run and just ran all over. I added a fire dragon steel embossment. So I brought Saffron out of retirement, made some more fire dragon steel, and embossed my laser gun with it to get Inferno 2 on it, which adds some knockback and sets things on fire and adds extra fire damage. So I went out to look for things to shoot with it. Didn't find anything too good to shoot with it. I killed another couple of dragons above ground. I'm not sure if they seem sort of immune to the fire dragons, seem sort of immune to it, so I'm not sure that they actually did anything. But while I was out there, I found a couple more peace candles. So we've got a peace candle here, and then another peace candle somewhere else in the building. I forget where I put it. So we do have more prevention of spawning in the area, but I still like to keep everything lit up just in case. So yeah, I did a whole bunch of construction. None of this is particularly ready to go. I am still using, when I get back to Astral Sorcery, which will probably be next episode, I've actually got this semi-buried pre-generated structure over here, and this is where my entry-level table is. And I'm going to stay here for a bit just because I've got the free collector crystal here in the form of a floating crystal world gem. So until I get things a little further in Astral Sorcery so that I can make relays and or collector crystals, then I'll move everything over here. So that'll probably happen in the next episode or two. So we'll move it over to its new home here when I upgrade it. So yeah, we have areas for magic to get started. I probably need to make a Botania area too. We did just put a couple episodes ago, put just a rough, start some mana collection over here going. So we've got that. So I do have some mana. I've also got a couple of mana tablets full of mana. So we're sort of got some good starting mana going. But I'll need to set up some place with 4 or 5 pools and some more generation and etc. So I'll probably work on that the next time I get a bug to build something. So also last time when we left, we talked about working on, I had made a modular machine for plutonium production. And also we talked about setting up an extreme reactor for cyanite production. So we need both cyanite and plutonium to make plutonium. So if we take a look here, this recipe, plutonium blocks, is important to get plutonium for in-game type stuff. And it requires cyanite, which comes from uranium being turned into cyanite in an extreme reactor. And we need tiny piles of plutonium, which I got a bunch of them from dragon layers, but to get even more of them, you can do that by using an IC2 nuclear reactor. So I built those, and let's take a look. So here's my extreme reactor, and it is turning, I sort of ran through it all, but you can see I've already turned a bunch of uranium into cyanite so that I could build plutonium. So that is working good. This is not particularly optimized. When it was running, I think it was making about 35,000 RF per tick. I did go ahead and make another induction matrix. It's good to have two, because then if you take one down to work on it or expand it, you don't completely cut off power to your base. So I've got the one over here which has 200 billion RF in it, and then we've got now a new one that has 409 billion RF in it. So that sort of filled up while I was doing all that building and whatnot, due to our mostly our nuclear craft reactor that we worked on the last couple episodes. So in here, this is not by no means optimized for power or anything. It's just a design that I think is pretty and looks cool. I didn't need one this big. I didn't need to do it this way. I didn't need to cool it that bad. There are probably more optimal ways for producing power and more optimal ways for producing cyanite. This is just a design that I like and I think is aesthetically pleasing. If it gets too much smaller than this, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel extreme to me. So I wanted to, at least make it this big. And this is a 7x7 with 5 fuel rods in it. And so you can see I got the 5 fuel rods in a multiplication sign factor as opposed to a plus or an equals sign. Inside I've got graphite blocks right below some gelid cryothium source blocks. The graphite blocks work as coolers, but then also it causes the gelid cryothium source blocks to spread out and cover the rest of the fuel. And I just think that's an aesthetically pleasing design, so that's why I made it this way. And again, it was creating maybe 34,000 RF per tick, and it burned through, I let it burn through a bunch of cyanite while we were filling up the new induction matrix. So that should be enough cyanite to keep me going for a little bit until we get into some heavy duty in-game stuff. So with that cyanite, I was able to make the plutonium. And if we take a look at plutonium production, because you can see we also need plutonium, now that I have ingots of plutonium, I can do, let's open this up, and let's go fuel. So that allows me to make fuel rods and out of MOX. And let's look at it over here. So MOX fuel rods burn twice as fast as nuclear fuel or just normal uranium fuel rods. So you process them faster. They do the same. They give you the same results. They just do it in half the time. So to get a lot of plutonium, what we want to do is we want to use plutonium as sort of a multiplier to make MOX fuel. And then when the MOX fuel comes out, we'll get uranium. And then we'll make more plutonium, make more MOX fuel, burn it through our IC2 nuclear reactor, get more plutonium, and so on. And basically this acts as a multiplier. This recipe lets you build up a lot of plutonium. And if we take a look, well, I don't have the recipe up and going. But anyway, bottom line is that's what we're doing. And so last time we set up let's teleport upstairs. So last time we made some 13x13 modular, 13x13x13 compact machines. So if we take a look at this, you can see I've got some IC2 nuclear reactors set up in there. So let's hop into our hazmat suit for Industrial Craft 2. I'm invulnerable now, so the radiation sickness won't hurt me. However, for like 2.5-3 minutes, I'll go while it tries to hurt me. So we don't want to listen to that. And now I prepped a bunch of fuel rods, so let's grab those. And I'll show you what we're going to do down here. Got to get out my personal miniaturization device. Alright, so here we go. And did I already set these up with filters? Oh, I did not set up the filters. Shame on me. Well, basically what we're going to be doing is, we can just do that real quick. We are going to be extracting MOX fuel rods, and then we are going to be inserting MOX fuel rods. And then we are going to be extracting, always active, depleted mox fuel rods. So let's see, extract, always active, good fuel rods, insert depleted fuel rods. This is going to be insert full ones, and it's going to be extract, always active, depleted ones. I should have done this ahead of time. I apologize. I thought I had, but then I remembered that I got distracted by something else. And I made 4 of these just so that we can, bust through this stuff. Insert the good fuel rods. Extract the depleted fuel rods. Alright, good to go. Let's take a look at how I got these set up. Now these are also not optimized for power. Basically, we've just got a bunch of overclock heat vents and a bunch of reactor plating, and we've left 27 spots open for fuel rods. And the only goal here really is to deplete these fuel rods so that we can extract plutonium from them. So this is all about turning 3 ingots of plutonium into multiple pieces of plutonium so that we can make more plutonium. So this is all about just sort of ramping up our plutonium production. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dump all of these 108 fuel rods into there. It'll auto-populate all these empty places. We had to filter the extraction so that we didn't pull out our overclocked heat vents or anything. So let's just double check, make sure everything looks good. Oops. So everything looks good. And now, if we throw this in here, hopefully. Did I turn on the extraction here? Yes. Extracting fuel rods, yes. I obviously did something wrong. So we got items. We are extracting on cyan, mox fuel rods. We have mox fuel rods. And then we are inserting. Oh, I got these backwards. That do the trick? Hey, there we go. So boom. And now those will count down in durability. Oh, I need to provide power to these bad boys to run them. Alright, whatever. We can do that. Let's see. So let me just fix this. I don't know why I did different colored channels. It's just feeling weird. You don't really need to with the filters in place. Basically, the only reason I did it is so that I could look at the pipes later to see that they were set up right. And of course they weren't. Oh well, what are you going to do, right? Okay, so we are extracting green, extracting green, extracting green, extracting green, and inserting, not lime, now it is green. And we are extracting cyan, inserting cyan, inserting cyan, inserting cyan, and inserting cyan. And if we take a look, everything is fine. Everything is loaded. Nothing that shouldn't be pulled out is being pulled out. And so now we just need to slap down some power cables, which hopefully I have some. Ultimate, you can just use some advanced ones here. And I think you can just power these along the top here. Or not. Let's see. All right, let me pause the video and remember what I did here. So I think you need to power these guys before they'll run. But for some reason the mechanism cable doesn't seem to be wanting to attach, which I have had some problems with that breaking. So let me pause here and track down the bugs on this situation and be right back. Alright, I am back and I remembered what the problem was. These need levers to turn them on. So I slapped some levers on there. You can see we've got 0 output on this bad boy. I flipped this lever and we've got 540 EU per tick. 540 EU, I think RF is about 4 times that. So this would be like 2160 RF per tick. So then we turn it back off and it goes off. Alright. And we take a look at our durability. We want to keep an eye on the durability of our fans because we want the durability of our fuel rods to tick down at a nice pace so that we can extract plutonium from them. But we want to make sure that none of our heating vents die. And everything looks fine there. So we'll flip all these bad boys on. So this is about 2468. This is about 8500 RF per tick. And this would have been, I probably could have started this, earlier because I got tiny piles of plutonium pretty quick. And I could have gotten that going a little faster and used it as a power source. But we jumped into the Indirium turbines from advanced generators pretty quick. So on the whole, these would have been sort of a pain in the butt to make early on. And now at this stage in the game, 8500 RF per tick is sort of a drop in the bucket since we're already creating 4.8 million with a nuclear craft reactor. But again, this is mostly, so I'm not even going to bother collecting this. I did run into a problem last time when I tried to collect the thing where I couldn't get mechanism to hook to these bad boys. So I ended up last time making some IC2 EU cables and setting it on there and then trying to get those to hook up to something. And it didn't want to hook up to anything, so then I made a IC2 capacitor, and I don't know, it was just all a lot of trouble for power that I didn't necessarily need. So we're just going to let the plutonium go on this guy and ignore the power generation. One last check, the fans are still fine. The durability is counting down. So the other problem I ran into the other time that I did this was keeping this chunk loaded. So I probably should have centered this in the room a bit more. But last time things acted really funky unless I actually claimed the whole pocket dimension. So this is 13 by 13 by 13, but so you would think it would all be contained in one thing. However, I think these walls are on the edge here, so you might be able to get away with just claiming these 4, but things got a little funky. If I'd have remembered that ahead of time, well, I sort of did, I guess. I guess I did check this, and everything is over on this side. I can try and get away with just claiming or chunk loading this one thing, but I have chunk loading to spare, so I think for now I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole damn area just to make sure this thing doesn't stop working when I zone out. And then if I need to if I need to. I'm at 46 out of 50, so if I need more chunks back, I'll come back and experiment with just chunk loading this one chunk, since all of my machines should be centered in this one chunk. And if that doesn't work, I'll try getting these three around it, since the walls are on the border, to make sure that the entire pocket dimension doesn't despawn, because maybe that's what happens. Maybe these border walls cause the whole thing to unload. But anyway, that's something to keep an eye on when you're setting. If you're setting this kind of stuff up in these compact machines ones, keep an eye on your chunk loading. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I am sure that you better check on it and make damn sure that it's actually running, or you'll come back several hours later and your fuel rods will have only ticked down like 20 points or so, and that's no bueno. So we're good to go. We have plutonium production. We have cyanite production downstairs. Lag spike. So my last E2E attempt at a playthrough, one of the things that got crazier was I did start to get less and less stable as I started chunk loading more and more dimensions. So by the end of that thing, I had two different planets chunk loaded. I had a piece of the end chunk loaded. I, of course, had the overworld had a bunch of chunks loaded, but it seemed as I put loaded chunks in more and more dimensions, things got less and less stable. So I'm going to keep an eye on that this time. And I could move those out to the overworld and just set them away. Nothing is going to happen with them, so it should be safe to have them in my base. But I think it's just a good habit whenever you're doing anything that might blow up to make sure it's not going to blow up your base. So what else did we do? You might notice my health bar down at the bottom. I'm now up to 10 pink hearts, and I've got the doop of regeneration going. So again, in preparation for blood magic, I figured I might as well make another personal beacon. So I now have max strength, max resistance, max health for extra hearts, maxed regeneration, so I can do self-sacrifices, and water breathing, and saturation, so I never have to eat, and night vision, and max flight speed. So I got all the goodies. One of the reasons I went ahead and did that, though, was because an episode or two ago, a YouTuber named Lewis Cipher commented on one of my videos that the UU Matter replicator can make connectors, the Enigmatica Tech connectors. And I checked, and they're only 1.745 millibuckets each. Now, if we take a look at that recipe, if I could type, connector. If we take a look at that recipe, one connector is four blocks of tin, and also 4 blocks of signalum. And to get, if we take a look at how fast we're getting a millibucket, so every time it gets to 100%, we're getting a millibucket. So that's like connector. And these connectors are essentially what makes environmental tech really expensive. So I can't thank Lewis Cipher enough for mentioning that on one of my YouTube videos a couple episodes back. Episode 9, I think it was, or 8. This is crucial. This is a big deal. This will let you get into the void miners and the personal beacons much faster. So if I do another playthrough, I might do an Enigmatica 2 expert skyblock playthrough next, because I've never really done a skyblock. So this will definitely be on my radar now. That is just huge. And because of that, I may also go ahead and make a huge environmental tech solar array. And he also suggested that if you put that in the end, it's always daylight in the end. So I might make one of those and put that in there. So that was a really great tip. It's just so cheap that I just went ahead and said, you know what, to heck with it. I'm just going to make another tier 5. So I've got now 2 tier 5 beacons so that I could have all the goodies, because why not? These guys are now actually pretty cheap to make. So this is all good. And having both the 5 health and health benefits, if we take a look at those, we got 5 of the health boost modifiers and 5 of the regen modifiers. So that'll make self-sacrifice a breeze when we get into blood magic in the next episode or 2. Yeah, so what else have I done? I think I played a little bit, and you may have noticed that I have arches on some of the windows now. I'm still trying to decide if I like them or not, but on the ground floor internal, I didn't change these corner ones, but on the inside ones, when I made this, I thought, it'd be cooler if the windows were cooler. So I played with Architecture Tech for the first time, Architecture Craft for the first time, and I tried some of these arches, and they look pretty cool. It makes them hard to put glass in them, but I think I had decided I didn't really want to put glass in them anyway. So I've fiddled around with that a bit. I haven't decided. I like to, live with changes like that for a while before I decide if I want to propagate them through the entire base. They are sort of a lot of work to set up just for a very slight change in appearance. So I haven't decided if I want to do all the rest of the windows into arches like that before. I like them, but then again, I don't know if I like them enough to make the change on everywhere. But it is sort of cool. I had never played with these really before. So basically, you can make the big radius ones in multiple pieces. So if you had like a single block you wanted an arch, or a double block you wanted an arch, or a triple, you can do those kinds of things. And there are other stuff. So I might play around with making some spheres or some various other things here just to see what all it can do. What else? That may be about it for this episode. As I said, I was yesterday for me was, I think, Sunday. So I spent a lot of hours playing, but because this was filling up, and I didn't really have access to the material, because I had this all on insert only, or export only. So I didn't do a lot of crafting. I think probably what I'm going to do is, now that we've gotten to a good sort of end of mid-game tech place, I might go through and just do all this stuff. So a lot of these, I have a fluid solid canning machine. That's how I made fuel rods. I've got, of course, nuclear reactors. We just took a look at those. I've got metal formers for making the empty fuel rods. I have an electric furnace. I have a compressor. I'm going to need to make solar panels, I think, if I recall correctly, to make environmental solars. So I have a lot of this stuff done. So I might just bust all of this out. I have, of course, the recycler, mass fabricator, pattern storage, scanner, and replicator, and iridium. I have this entire line done. I just haven't unlocked the quests yet for the rewards. So we're going to go through probably, I might go through that later tonight and just clean up a bunch of this stuff. A bunch of this stuff I either have done, I just haven't unlocked the reward yet, or I could get done pretty quickly. So we might just go through and clean up a bunch of this stuff. See if we get any decent rewards. I think I have a good chunk of this stuff already. So that's about ready to be closed up. It wouldn't hurt me now to make a digital miner in preparation of taking it off planet. We've got a bunch of this stuff. I could run one of those through. So yeah, I might just go ahead and go through, and if we take a look at the gates, I might try and button up all of these. Basically, this section here, and close out most of those. The only things I won't really be able to do is the apiary armor for forestry, and a few other things. I can't remember. I think I still need to go. Have I tamed a cat? I can't remember. Might have to go to a jungle and catch an ocelot. But I can clean up most of these and get them all finished up. And then the other thing we want to do is get into advanced rocketry. So we've opened that, but we haven't worked on it at all yet. We have titanium, so we need to make some coils and motors, and I should be able to claim this now. Yes, no, maybe. I guess I need to make the holo projector. Duh. So yeah, we could get into this stuff. We need these advanced circuits to make the ultimate crafting table. So we're going to need to get that going before we get much further on the tech stuff. So advanced rocketry, at least up through advanced circuit. Then we can make the ultimate crafting table. Then we can start making some draconic evolution and other garbage, and get into that a bit more. But I think I sort of want to get caught up on magic. So I need to get some Thaumcraft going, which requires doing a lot of research on the research table, and opening up some recipes, and then sort of working in tandem between Botania, Thaumcraft, and Astral Sorcery. Those sort of all feed off of each other, so I sort of can work those up in tandem and start getting someplace. So I think we'll end the episode here, where we began, watching the sunset over our new Blood Magic Temple. And I like the hieroglyphics. I like decorating with redstone. I like the changing of the beacon colors to red. So this turned out pretty good. I sort of like the look of that. And I need to upgrade get some of the basics out of that so that I can upgrade my Starlight crafting table and get it over here and get it installed and get it juiced up with some relays or something so that it'll work without its floating crystal, so that we can start getting some progress done on Astral Sorcery. And I like the way this turns out, so again, I'll leave a link in the description to PM me your tatas thread on Reddit, where he created the structure and uploaded the pastebin file for it in case anybody else wants to print it out. Yep, so that is that. And I'll probably set up something for Botania somewhere. Gotta figure out where. I could try to make the rooftops all Botania. I might do that. I don't need these trees anymore because I've maxed out my food diversity for getting hearts. So I might take out these trees and just turn it into 4 sections. We can summon Gaia in one place and do massive mana in another place. We can move this Starlight stuff down to its new home. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll set Botania up in 4 things. I might even make some sky bridges between the things so that I can run back and forth between them. I gotta look. I usually put this all clumped together the couple of times I've done Botania to sort of the end of Botania. So I gotta look into, I've never really had to move mana around a lot. So sparks are new since the first time I used Botania, and all I did was make them to close the quest in the first run through of Enigmatica 2 Expert. So I might have to look into advanced mana transfer and sparks and whatnot if I split up my Botania over four spots. So I'll have to check on that and see if that's something I want to do. But yeah, got a lot of construction done, and got plutonium and plutonium production moving. So things are going well. And that is about it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.